Good morning. Hello, everybody. Good morning, Portugal. Carl Munson here. Bom dia, Dana dia. Tudo bem? Do let me know in the comments how you are this morning. And wow, yes. Good morning to you. Bom dia da alegria, da alegria. From Andy and Leona there. And look at this. Oh my God, where is my Carl? I'm here, Eric. I'm here. It's a slightly different morning this morning. I'll be honest with you. At 1 minute past 9, I was still looking. What was I looking at? I think some Portugal resident news stories. Blithely, gaily, just sitting here, minding my own business, forgetting that there was a show about to start. So thank you for the prompt. I just don't know what happened. I've had 2 really nice, deep nights of sleep, I have to say. It feels like I've been catching up on sleep of the window, but it's so hard to know, isn't it, what's going on in the rest of the world at the moment. So I trust, yes, everyone else seems to be here. That's good. I'm hoping you can hear me all right. It does feel a little bit different today, and my voice is a little bit high-pitched, isn't it? So let's see what happens this morning. Breathe, relax, and let's see what happens in this next hour or so. Consumer Tuesday, as it's become on the Good Morning Portugal show, where we normally take a look at money matters, business. We did Bitcoin, didn't we? Was it last Tuesday? We were with Fake Toshi, and what turned into a fairly controversial debate about Bitcoin in some quarters, which was very interesting. Before that, of course, we've had Ernest and Rizal here talking about EXP Portugal. Of which I'm glad to be a part, disrupting real estate in Portugal, and the week before talking to Simon Gotto of the Rex Bar in Óbidos. So this is the place where we have the Cockerel's Coop, which is like the Dragon's Den. So if you want to talk about your business this morning, you're most welcome. And I will be talking about a couple of businessy things. But the big question that just occurs to me this morning is, what are we going to do about Central Portugal? It may seem like an odd question, but I'll explain more later, because I'll lead us towards that debate. As we found out, Central Portugal is very dear to a lot of people. It's the reason why I fell in love with Portugal. I first visited Portugal and Central Portugal over 10 years ago. And I just felt so at home and so inspired by the landscape and the culture. It's where I wanted to return, and I have returned. And I am in Central Portugal-ish, but not quite in the landscape I envisaged and I imagined. And still, it calls to me. And the riddle, the mystery of it as well calls to me, and I'd like to talk about it today. So I'm just creating that banner as we speak, because I've just sat about and not really focusing and concentrating earlier on. I should have done this earlier. But what are we going to do about Central Portugal? You might be able to, isn't it all? I guess this is one of the sounds we've got used to on Zoom calls, is somebody typing on their laptop whilst trying to listen into a Zoom call. Sorry if I did that to you just then, but what are we going to do about Central Portugal? Okay, we will come back to that a little bit later. We will look at some business stories this morning. The very interesting idea of the bombergas. Sounds a bit like bomberos. Maybe that is the play on words they were hoping for. Bombergas idea, the dark kitchens, the ghost kitchens. Have you heard of those? Talking about those in the Algarve, and a particularly successful restaurant that's coped in the pandemic times. So we'll come back to those. And got a nice little product to share with you, Portuguese culture, after the very successful second episode of Frank about food. We've already had an invitation to go and cook in someone's kitchen. I know you're watching. Do you mind me saying who you are? But we've had an invitation, me and Frank, to go and cook at this wonderful kitchen down south in Portugal, and we'd like to take you up on that when the circumstances allow. So a few things to talk about, an easy leisurely one this morning. And obviously very interested in your comments and contributions, which we can do a little easier when it's just me. So let's see. Bon dia from Joel up there in Matosinhos, north of, I think it's north, isn't it? Possibly northwest of Porto. Good morning to you, Joel, a mainstay of our man cave, and always very helpful. A real Portuguese guy who gives so much service and attention to this community. If it's a view you want about Portuguese life from a Portuguese guy, he's your man. Gemini is here. Gemini Bradshaw, good morning, everyone. Good morning to you, Gemini. Eugene is here, nice and early. Hola, bom dia, todos. And we launched his poutine cookery book yesterday. Recipes from the old place, mainly involving poutine and nothing else. But looking forward to that. It's a great stocking filler for the coming Christmas, if I may mention that, just into March. Bon dia de Londres from Nick's Diamond. Yes, pre-order on Amazon now. Hola, bon dia from sunny California. From Hey Hank, how are you? Good to see all our friends here today. It really is. I can't tell you how great it is to see all the pals together in the morning. And I don't want that to sound in any way exclusive. You'll discover that this is a friendly bunch. If you're new to the proceedings here, we have become a focal point to be together in the crazy pandemic times. Far be it from me to confer any normality or stability in life. That is not my thing. If you ask anyone in my family, and they'll tell you that no, that's not his thing. But here I am, and we've managed to be together for over a year now, every morning. There we go, stability, normality, in a sense. And I'm just so glad of all of you being here. Really am. It's amazing, this community. Good morning to you, Hank. Bon dia, feeling great. Look at this. Tomorrow, I'll be getting my first COVID shot. I'm so psyched to be finally getting on with this. So there you go, Carolyn, having sorted that out as well and looking forward to it. Definitely looking a bit crusty this morning, Carl. Well, thank you, Gary. You see, you're among friends when someone dare say that to you. Almost to your face. I mean, when it comes to talking to my face, you like talking on my face here, aren't you? The comment is there, and the evidence is. Yeah, I've got a bit of a shiny forehead. I can see that now. Thanks, Gary. Any other makeover tips? Gladly received. Hello, sir, from Tarlock Singh. Good morning to you, Tarlock. Great to hear from you this morning. Not too crusty, I hope, here. But yes, if someone needs to send me a PM to sort something out, I feel like now I'm broadcasting with my flies undone. Not that that would matter in this setup. Greetings from Harrogate. I thought that said greetings from Harrogate Algarve, and that Paul had renamed or twin towns some action there. Greetings from Harrogate Algarve. Algarve is getting nearer time-wise. I needed a comma in there. 15 degrees. Nice. So 15 degrees in Harrogate. The silent H of Harrogate up there in Yorkshire this morning. Good morning to you, Paul. Loving your pictures, really am. Carolyn, congratulations. Very happy for you. So yes, Hank is like a jab monitor, isn't he? Making sure that everyone's had their jab and convening the conversation around that. Cheers, Hank, for all you do every morning. Bon dia from Jersey. Hey, Jersey, how are you? Great to have your company as well. Prosecco Peggy in the house. It's a Mom Dear all. It could be a typo, but that works too, doesn't it? Mom Dear from Nonna Peggy there in the Algarve. Fantastic. Mark Rigby, Bon Dia from an overcast and rainy Povo de Varginha. At least the reservoirs in the Ave River Basin are most full in Portugal. So good news there. Enough water for the reservoirs, enough water for the wine. Let's crack on with some sunny weather, shall we? Thanks, Mark. I no longer believe in water. It's just really condensed air. Deal with it, Globies. Okay, thank you for that. Eugene, that your tangential view of life, always welcome. Hello, sir. My working visa Portugal. Working visa, do you need help there, Tyler? Go to the expatsportugal.com forum, my friend. You will get help from the community there. We have our business directory with all the appropriate professionals that are tried and trusted in there. So yeah, expatsportugal.com. And of course, tomorrow, we're extending. I won't talk too much about how to start a business today, because we're getting Michael from Avonlight in tomorrow. That and other things, because it's always great when I get together with him. A bit of a guide. If you're tempted to start a business in Portugal, Michael can be of great help there, and will be my guest tomorrow. Michael Heron returns. And of course, yes, the business directory, Tarlock. Take a look there, expatsportugal.com. Peggy, bon dia. There you go. She's put that right. But we knew what you meant, Peggy. Bomb disposal algebra translation care of Facebook. Sunny here in, what is that? Bomb disposal algebra. I see. When you put bon dia alegria, it comes out as bomb disposal algebra. Of course it does. They talk about artificial intelligence. It's got a way to go yet. Sunny here in Cabanas de Tavira this morning, but not sure it will last. Maybe Central Portugal needs me to come up and sort it out. I think you're right, Paul. A little sabbatical up in Central Portugal. The question for today, what are we going to do about Central Portugal? It's a serious question, but we can still have fun doing it. I'm sure we would. Bon dia, Carl and others. Can you or someone else talk about eco-village projects or just people interested in community living using sustainability values and practices? Yeah, Tamara is a really good place to start, Carla. When I was doing a bit of research for what's happening in Central Portugal, I mean, specifically regeneration, okay? It is the most amazing part of Portugal. And it is losing population and prosperity year by year, has been for many decades. And yet, to me, it represents all that's good and great about Portugal and a model, or not a model, but a context for how we might regenerate more generally, culturally, societally, work on the lessons that the pandemic has brought to us. You know, the pandemic, of course, to me, has exposed our vulnerability. When people talk about getting back to normal, I don't think that's going to happen, for one thing. And I would also ask the question: was normal that brilliant? I mean, this is a lot worse than normal, but normal wasn't that great, was it? You know how it was a very the inequity of normal before. We seem to have forgotten because things have got a lot worse in the pandemic. And for me, what's possible, the context of Central Portugal, it provides such a beautiful background for how we might live in a more appropriate, sustainable, and joyous way, frankly, and regain some of the ground that we've lost in the push for whatever it is we've been pushing for in the most sort of neoliberal capitalistic economies of the world. If you get my drift, other people might be able to explain that better than me. But that's a great question, Carla. Tamara are really good, and if there are some good searches to be done about community life in Portugal. And one of my ideas for Central Portugal would be that people live more in community. And I don't want that to frighten people. You know, we're not going to become naked, tree-hugging, yogurt-weaving communards where we start the day with a 3-hour house meeting out of which much bitterness and acrimony arises and those seething resentments persist that are merely a transference and projection of one's unresolved childhood issues. Oh, no, nobody wants that. Nobody got time for that, as they say in the United States. But I'll talk more about that. I don't know if this is making any sense this morning, or if maybe I've slept too much. That's possible, isn't it? But I hope that helps, Carla. Tamara in the Algarve, they are doing amazing work. Bon dia. I love when the show starts. We would usually, it tends to mean something even more interesting is on its way. Not that's what Dave's usual formats. I see. Not that the usual formats aren't also fab. Yeah, well spotted, Fiona. Do I say that every day? Do I say that every day? Well, today we would usually. I think I probably do say that more often than the more rigorous and detail-oriented people might prefer. But well spotted, Fiona. Bon dia from Louise. How are you, Louise? I was thinking about you yesterday. I was going to drop you a line last night. I'll do that later today. Hope you're well. And everything is shaping up right for you. Would love to have you, and happy to tell people that I know you. Well, that's a really nice validation. So it was Peggy. Prosecco Peggy sent us some pictures of her kitchen yesterday and said, would love for you and Frank to come and cook and film here. So we are officially accepting that invitation. Frank's delighted, Peggy. I showed him the pictures of your beautiful kitchen and your little outside area there where we might sit and eat the food afterwards. When I say we cook it, Frank's cooking. As usual, I'm just talking and drinking and hoping to be useful on the periphery somewhere. But Peggy, thank you for that invitation. We will take you up on that. It looks fantastic. So bless you. And yes, Peter Robinson. Bon dia, everyone. Greetings from Perafita again. That's what a lot of us say, isn't it, Peter? Bon dia from here again. I mean, it's not so bad, but we could do with a little bit of relief and contrast, couldn't we? And looking forward to that. Maybe I'll read that out as well. This the deconfinement in Portugal looking like it might happen a couple of weeks earlier than mooted suggested. I don't know. We might take a look at that. Do you want to? Good morning, people, from Lee McGrady. Hey, Lee, how are you doing? Very good admin skills, may I say, to you, Lee. Bon dia, feeling hopeful. Got my first COVID vaccine shot yesterday. It's something to do with our demographic as well, isn't it? Good morning. I'm glad for you, Dory. I saw your sticker. Do they actually give you a sticker? A bit like you going to the dentist back in the day. Like, you've been very good. Here's your sticker. It's amazing to see that on your timeline. But pleased for you. Pleased that you're pleased. Congrats, Doreen. See, Hank is there. He is. Jab monitor. Reaching out to everybody who is getting their shot at the moment. All inclusive. That is why most of us are here, because we care about each other. There you go. From Peggy. She's absolutely right. Ryan Suarez. Morning from Lisbon. Time to make an American latte with Irish cream. Cheers. Now, does that mean it's got some whiskey in it as well, Ryan? Good start to the day. Fantastic. Good morning to you. Bon dia, alegria. Hope you are having a great morning. Misty and dismal in Kent. What is this gay vegan community you speak of, Carl? No, just say the best gay vegan community I've come across is the Expat Man Cave community. Really, really good. If those are the sort of resources you're looking for, would recommend it to anybody. Bon dia, Anna Marinchenko. Good morning to you, Anna. A new name, possibly, or maybe visited a couple of times with us. But hello to you. Lovely to have you here. Debbie News, writing about you last night. Debbie did a little article for the Expats Portugal resources about your wonderful share and care project. A goose morning, Carl. I was speaking to a friend yesterday about Central Portugal, how beautiful some of the natural beauty spots are just a few miles out, and you're in the mountains. It looks so lush and now green, of course, with all the rain. Then you've got the lakes and waterfalls. Can't wait for summer if allowed to go swimming again and have a picnic to de-stress. Yes, you see, there you go. There's a little vignette of Central Portuguese life. Our topic today, but if we ever get round to it, because that's the other thing, isn't it, Fiona? We would usually talk about famous words here, and then often the distraction even. So there's a thing we'd normally talk about, then I get distracted by something else, and then I don't even talk about that because we have a lovely conversation from the comments arising. I'm not complaining. Bon dia, good morning. Vetalingen van krustig, vet kozelg, krustig gore, grumpy, grouchy, moro, surly, peevish, crusty. Okay. It's just my job to read it. Thank you, Shani, for that erudite observation. Move Central Portugal to the Algarve, problem solved. Yes, Paul. Now, that is a laterally thought out solution that hadn't occurred to me. And we could, I mean, all you need to do really is just create one love bridge from Central through Alentejo, right, and Ribatejo to the Algarve. Because I suppose that's it. I don't want to sound separatist about Central Portugal, because, you know, what I love about it resonates throughout the whole country. I mean, that's the thing about Central Portugal. To me, it's the heart and soul and the treasury of indigenous Portuguese life. But I mean, that's a contentious thing to say, because obviously that abides elsewhere in Portugal. So I don't mean it in any way that puts the rest of Portugal down, as we discovered from the now famous Algarve Central Portugal bust up of last week, the rumble in the Portuguese jungle. You know, there's so much love for both places. It's a bit like, I likened it. It was the 57th anniversary of the 22-year-old Muhammad Ali, who was called Cassius Clay at the time, fighting Sonny Liston. And you have to remember, don't you, that by the time two fighters of such great repute are in the ring, neither of them are mugs, are they? They're both great fighters to have got that far, and this is true of Central and Algarve. But to me, there is just something as an important job to do in Central Portugal. And again, you know, I don't want to make it sound like, you know, coming over here and regenerating the place. This is a project that I want to be utterly integrated. And you know, not a colonial or empirical in any way. You know, I just want to see Central Portugal return to what I believe to be its former glory and beauty, and I think we can all help with that, if that makes sense again. So, because many young people in Portugal have headed for cities, the littoral as well, right? People go to the coast and over to the west, where Porto and Lisbon are. Many young people in Portugal have headed for cities or abroad to find jobs. The population of Central Portugal is imbalanced by the number of older people. They need people to come and live here to farm and trade if this way of life we love so much is to survive. He's done it again. The voice of reason, Gary Austin. I don't know what he's having for breakfast these days, but he keeps uttering utter sense. Is it 3 or 4 shredded wheat that he's had this morning? But that encapsulates it, Gary. But we do have the work to do. We can see that, can't we? And it's the how. It's the how now, isn't it? It's how do we go about this? The golden visa program, investing 350,000 euros will allow you the golden visa for Central, the outback of Portugal, as it's called. That's one financial incentive for it, financial, economic, sort of kind of political move towards making it happen. What else can we do? Is it happening? Is my question. What's the direction of travel? Do you feel positive, Gary? I mean, you've lived there a couple of years now. You've known about it for a bit longer. How would you measure the trend? Is the trend getting better or worse, Gary, in view of what you've just said there? This is why you will always be welcome here, says Gary. And that's not just to me, folks. That's to it is a very welcoming place as well, to boot. It's not like people go there and get shooed away or feel unwelcome. They might feel a little bit. I mean, in Central Portugal, sometimes you can feel like, oh my word, where is everybody? Especially if you're a crazy tourist expat and you're running around the place in your car at midday, as we do, you will think that everyone has left for the coast or the big cities in Central Portugal because they're wisely indoors, shuttered up, taking refuge from the blistering heat. So you can easily think that what's going on? Nobody lives here. This is a lonely life. But you just have to pick your time and get used to that very sparse and what's wrong with a bit of sparse population density. To Claire now. Good morning to you, Claire. Another fan of Central Portugal. Fantastic 50s Claire. Bon dia, Carl. She says, yeah, move to the south, closer to the earthquakes. Taking away everything I've said, Joel there. Lol. Actually, this is a Porto, Lisboa, Porto, rest of the world thing, isn't it? I think, or Matosinhos anyway. Thank you, Joel, for that. Anyone driven? Am I being too romantic? There we go. Let's get a gravity check. That's from a reality gravity check from Joel. Am I being too romantic, Joel? Is Central Portugal? Do we just have to face the tide of progress and the inevitable decline and rise and fall of human activity, and it's just going to go its way as many might predict, and it's left to it's mainly being governed by politics and economics as usual, like so many things. The race to the bottom, the lowest common denominator, human values. Are they just not so important, and it's just going to go the way of everything in this world? Is that what I need to face up to and stop talking about it, Joel? Anyone driven across the river to the Spain in the Algarve? How long is the wait? Oh, that's a great question, Eric. Obviously, you can't do it at the moment, can you? Unless you're on official business. But yeah, how long does it take to queue up for the bridge to go through into Spain from the Algarve? And I think they're building another bridge, aren't they? They're part of Portugal's recovery plan I saw was to build an additional bridge to Spain with the injection, with the fiscal easing, fiscal bomb, these economic bombs that get dropped in times of difficulty. There was talk about building another bridge to Spain. Sliding in, Rizal, bon dia, alegria. Good morning to you, the Furtados. Over there on the Silver Coast. Hope you're well this morning. But everybody's normal is different. For example, have you ever heard the phrase normal for Norfolk? I haven't, but I know exactly what you mean. And somebody who might be able to speak to that is Jerry Champion, the undisputed heavyweight champion of Central Portugal. Here he is. Jerry Lawler from Expats Portugal, of course. Bon dia, Carla. Check out the schist villages. Yeah, architecturally, you can't. You really can't beat the beauty of the schist villages, which when you first hear that, you think that's a bit derogatory, isn't it? Calling all these villages schist. No, folks, it's not like that. Schist villages, that beautiful slate-like stone. I suppose they're thin pieces of granite, aren't they? Built up, and you'll see a reference to it. Even in the most modern Portuguese home, you might see a feature wall that's a bit schisty. So yes, Jerry's right. Check out schist villages. Carla, I was wondering if you were perhaps talking more of the intentional community, people getting together specifically to live together for the purposes of growing food, regenerating the landscape, being together, and that sort of social experiment. But let's face it, before we even think about living together beyond the nuclear family, I mean, some of us have got a bit of work to do, just having 3 generations back in the household. Some are glad to see the back of that, I know. Depends on how well you get on with your family, doesn't it? But as we know from Portugal, there's a lot to be said from the 3 generation and more. system, the culture. You know, a lot of expats will, of course, be kind of orphaned by their activity unless they move as a family, and that will probably only be 2 generations. I wonder, is there anyone here who's an expat 3-generation project? By that, I mean, have you come with not just your kids, but maybe some grandparents as well? Or are you the grandparents who's brought the parents and the children in a kind of elder, patriarchal, matriarchal way? That'd be interesting to know. I think Carla is possibly talking about intentional communities, Tamara being, you know, one of the finest examples in Portugal, but let alone intentional communities. We need part of what I'm talking about, what I think is required, and part of the model of Portuguese life that I so love is 3 generations worth. Joel will tell us all about that. Ain't nobody got time for that, is what I was trying to say. Thank you for the translation there, Josh. I'm guessing that's Josh from Expats Everywhere, who's made me he's turned me into a internet sensation, that fella, and Kaylee there. You know, there's me. With me breakfast show here, Good Morning Portugal. No complaint intended here, but in terms of YouTube influence, you know, we bump along very nicely. We have amazing numbers for our videos. Then I get an interview with Expats Everywhere. I think that's had like 13,000 views in a week, just over a week. It's amazing what they're doing over there at Expats Everywhere. Great job, Josh and Kaylee. Keep up the great work, my friends. If I go to Porto, I'm going to get stopped in the street. I'll be signing pastel de natas, possibly. The great Portuguese engine in Central Portugal just needs a new battery to get it started. There you go, Gary. So that was a very political answer. The trend, Gary, the trend, is it getting better or worse is what I need to know. How serious, you know, what state is the patient in? What is the prognosis? We're on top of the diagnosis. What's the prognosis, my friend? How's it looking? What's the blood? What are the BPs? What are the vitals? Peter, you should see normal for Tipton. Stop it, you lot. The pandemic has provided the opportunity for societies to build back better. There's a familiar phrase, but what happens remains to be seen. It's a very good point, Hank. So yes, build back better. 3-part slogan. Take care, you. And this is how the politicians are speaking to people in the most patronizing way, at least to me. But I get it. Build back better. What it means, I don't know. So let's dig deeper into that. Build back better. What does that mean? What would it look like? Come on. It shouldn't be left to politicians alone. They are the servants, aren't they, of society, not the executives, really. Although they are. Should that be the case? And have we not had enough decades of seeing the results of that to think, well, hold on a minute, this needs to be a bit more participatory. I hope to see a large wave of families to choose to move out of the cities, as has been evident in the UK due to the pandemic. That's true, isn't it, Fiona? People have been questioning the value and importance of living in the city because that's been turned upside down. I mean, if they can work remotely for a whole year, why would they choose to be stacked and packed in apartment blocks and be debarred from the usual weekend and long holiday escape to the relatives? There you go. Great point, Fiona. Thank you. The village I live in is so community-minded. I walk my dog and see all the neighbours helping each other and chatting, swapping veg, working on each other's land and being a community. Take the dog out for a walk at 8 o'clock. You're back by 2 in the afternoon, having spoken to everybody with a bag full of oranges, cabbage, and goodness knows what else, and promises to go visit for an aguardente later that evening. That's what I'm talking about. Elsa Riley, hola bom dia, a bit late joining in this morning. Another lovely sunny day here. Hope everyone is safe and well. Thank you for that. That's a semicolon there, as I just have a sip of my tea for a moment, and not long enough to play a video. I'll put a Peter's comment on for you to look at for a moment. Bear with me. Oh, that was a bit cooler than I'd hoped for. But I live and work here in Perafita, and I'm happy to stay here for the rest of my life. Now, there's a happy man, right? Yeah, Peter, I was just making a cheap joke based on what you said. Nothing personal there, because that man has nailed it. That's living, isn't it? Where you live and work in a place you love and will be happy to stay there for the rest of your life. This is the promise of Central Portugal, is what I would say, to extend upon that. After all, I'm only 10 minutes from the beach. What more could I want? Well said, Peter. There you go. There's a man that, you see, why would we look to politicians for an example of how to live or leadership when there is a natural leader, a man who's figured it out? All hail Peter Robinson this morning. He's gone and done it. That's what we're all looking for, isn't it? Bon dia, alegria. When will the borders open with Spain? Says Joao Filipe Traquina Ferreira. I am stuck in London and I want to go home. I can understand that, Joao. I don't know the answer to that, my friend. We will look at that if we get a chance. The deconfinement plan. Bon dia, alegria, todos. From Paul and Louise, perhaps sat at their kitchen table again, tuned in this morning. Great amount of people here this morning. Fantastic to hear and see you all. Certainly, if only in number, but it's fantastic. YouTube is really clearly a great way for us to connect. Some thumbs would be great on there, and any comments you've got, keep them coming. We would move to Central Portugal in a heartbeat if we could. Say Project Frugal. That sounds interesting, Project Frugal. Tell us more. You sound like you need to be a guest on this show. Are you anything to do with Reoccupy Portugal? The man, Milo Magnocavallo, whose words I would like to share with you, talking about what we can do with Central Portugal. He had an idea from an article I found back in 2012. Well, I found it last night, but it was written in 2012. And I need to know what's happened to him. Carl, you sound like the cook from the Muppet Show. Thank you so much. So I'm a bit crusty, and I sound like the cook from the Muppet Show this morning. It's going very well this morning. That was when I was reading out Jani's comment, I think. Central... I'm not going to do it again. Central Portugal was once full of people and will be once again. There you go. Sometime in the future, it has all you need for life and is too good a resource to be empty for long. I'm very happy to be part of it now and enjoy it whilst it's quiet. That's far-sighted. Typically so, I would say, from video master Pete Castanera de Pera, Wilton Davis there speaking to us. He knows a thing or two about Central Portugal. Another man worth considering as a leader, I would say, in his life choices. Good morning. I'm a listener, says Patricia Bartram, but haven't commented yet. I went for my COVID jab, and as a person of a certain age, over 80, couldn't help but feel that we were in God's waiting room. I'm so sorry to hear that you see it like that, Patricia. Practically everyone was using a stick or two in a wheelchair, and I found it so funny, even though I was in a mobility scooter myself. So seeing the funny side of that, Patricia, amazing. Thank you for commenting this morning. Really appreciate it. I guess there would be a sort of comedic, and I mean all the best comedy as a sort of a comedic / tragic vibe to it, doesn't it? But thank you so much for your comment there. Live from God's waiting room, waiting for the jab. Thank you, Patricia. Haven't visited Central Portugal yet. That could be disruptive to your plans, Mark. Be careful. Need to wait until I get my car that I brought with me fully regularized. And it sounds like the sort of thing George Bush would have said, isn't it? Regularized. And unrestricted travel is a thing again. Looking forward to eventually doing a lot of exploring and enjoying the astonishing variety that is Portugal. Well said, Mark. And I hope that our paths cross doing that, so that we can share a Sagres one day, or it might be Superboc for you. One of the questions that hangs there, Sagres or Superboc, never to be answered, only to be enjoyed. Talking of jabs, says Paul, congratulations to the UK NHS. Over 20 million first jabs done, and the jab pace is getting... I bet the people giving them are getting good at it now, aren't they? Wow. Joel, if I was to choose between Lisbon or Alentejo, I pick Alentejo all day long. That's another little jab at the capital from the sibling up there, the noisy neighbour that is Porto Matosinhos. I'm not surprised to hear that, Joel. And a great place to sit out the zombie apocalypse, also in Central Portugal, the meteor strike or world collapse. There you go, looking on the bright side. High enough to avoid rising seas, easy to block off the mountain passes, and plenty of sun and fresh water. There you go. Fantastic. If I was to choose between... it's so good he said it twice. Patricia Bartram, we have lived in Central Portugal for 15 years. Amazing, Patricia. So my mathematics tells me you came here as a pensioner, if I may refer to you in that way, which some people would say is brave. I would love to hear more of your experience, if you don't mind sharing. I mean, perhaps we can interview you one day. There are 40 and 50-year-olds who say, oh, no, it's too late now to move to become an expat. You might have news for them, eh? No, I didn't mean it like that, Jerry. Oh, dear. Offending people all over the country. Don't want to offend anyone in Central Portugal. That would go against my plans. Heavyweight, says Jerry. No, only in the metaphorical sense. Jerry Easy, easy. You're a racing snake of a man. We know that. Carl, queue up from the Algarve to Spain. Are you kidding? It usually takes a couple of minutes and you have crossed the bridge. Not now, of course. Yeah, I think that was probably the question, is like, how long is it taking at the moment with it? With show me your papers. I wonder how long. Sorry, I don't know what made me. It's just something when you grow up with World War II movies. Show me your papers is just one of those lines, isn't it, from war films? The moment when the handsome star of the film, pretending dressed up as a German, is moving out and about. Is that in The Wooden Horse, one of those sort of movies? And the immortal line comes, "Show me your papers," which is in German with a subtitle, and he has to get the papers out that have been forged underground by candlelight, and the tension builds. And what's going to happen next? He probably has to do a runner, and whilst being fired at. Anyway, enough of my childhood imagination there. Yes, at the moment it's going to take a while on the border, isn't it? Yeah, but ordinarily just a few minutes. That was Kaylee. Thank you, though, Philomena, for pointing that out. That was Kaylee saying, "Ain't nobody got time for that" this morning. And yes, delighted to hear of the correspondence between you and Mrs. M, Kaylee, because she talks a whole lot more sense than I do. I know that's hard to believe, but it's true. Yup, 3 generations of my lot. Fiona, yes, 3 generations of my lot here in Central, spread out through the Santarém. And we know that, don't we? Because the one of the 3rd generation was born only a few weeks ago. How's the little fella doing? So there you go. There is. I do say that a lot, don't I? At the moment, that's another Americanism, isn't it? There you go. Fiona, 3 generations of the Warrelish clan here. Fantastic. Coming up to 16,000, brother. The numbers for the video I did with expats everywhere, the wonderful interview. You'll be carried. It won't just be signing pastel de natas. I'll be carried around the streets of Porto. Hey guys, don't forget a thumbs up for the YouTube algorithm. There we go. We're talking about. I said it again. I'm gonna have to give myself some sort of shock therapy to stop repeating myself. Jerry, yes, Gary, a new battery and a lick of paint. There we go. So that's been the plan is developing. 2 bullet points now, or two boxes on the checklist. New battery, check, to come, and lick of paint, check. Certainly over to Gary's place. He's been painting all year, like the Forth rail bridge. When asked, our Portuguese friend in Central Portugal says, "When times get tough, we plant more cabbages," followed by a shoulder shrug. And there again, we're coming up with the most beautifully crystallized and direct information, aren't we? And insight. There's another one for you. When times get tough, we plant more couve, the cabbages. Say Paul and Louise. That's fantastic. That tells you a lot, doesn't it, about the resilience and the persistence of those of Central Portugal. And they are an aging population, as we all are, of course. Everyone's aging, aren't they? But the demographic would point to more older folks over there in Central Portugal, as Gary has wisely said, as the youngsters move away from those old-fashioned and rather fabulous ways for the glamour of the cities, or abroad. You know, it's not just about glamour, is it? It's about survival as they see it, and being able to earn some money. That's the thing. Therein lies the rub and the nub of this issue, is how to regenerate Central Portugal in terms of creating livelihood for people. And that was what I was searching for. There are moves, are there not, to encourage people towards Central Portugal? This is typical. We get a lot of love on this show, and then I see an angry face on the screen, an angry emoji, and I think, what have I done now? But anyway, let's just move on from that. Hello, good morning, or happy new day. All good here till now. Bon dia para todos from the Costa Diogo. Great to have your company. It's been a while, Diogo. But yes, it's the regenerative force, of course. Anywhere will be livelihood, and how people can make a living. And that's the big key, isn't it? And I know there are brains big enough to easily answer that question in this community. Hopefully, the pandemic will increase self-employment and self-sufficiency, says Lee. What, because we've had to just get a grasp on that, Lee, do you think? Thank you, Lee. Good morning to you. Don't know who to trust anymore, says Owen Lloyd Martin. Wow, Owen. I hear you, man, and I think you do. I think really we do, don't we? And our own hearts are the place to start on. And you're a big-hearted fella, Owen, for sure. And you're doing amazing things to galvanise community where you are. I hope that feeling soon passes for you. You know where we are. Perafita is in Matosinhos. I didn't know that. I was struggling to place that in my mind's geography. That's good to know. So he's near the beach up there in the north. That's really amazing. Thank you for that, Joel. There might be other Perafitas, of course. With the pandemic now, no little markets or little festivals or Aldea festivities. It is a little bit alone on the world in Central Portugal, but I think and hope it will return because it is a beautiful place. Yeah, that could go two ways, couldn't it? You know, sometimes when things stop, they're lost for good. I imagine in Central Portugal, Jenny, and I'm loving this. Thanks, everybody. We've just fully got into this. I thought, you know, you might be thinking, well, what is he talking about? What are we going to do about Central Portugal? But people seem to know exactly what I'm talking about here. And yes, with your comment there, Jenny, it might be when some things go, they're gone forever. But I've got the feeling that with deconfinement in the pipeline, that people will be partying like it's 1999, so to speak. And some of these things will be back with a vengeance. We will have lost some things. There's no doubt about that. Let's not be too rose tinted about it. But many people will be so keen to get this going again that it will be a party like they've never known before. I hope. I wish to get back to Portugal. Thanks for that, Jenny. I wish to get back to Portugal. Now still here on lockdown. Can't do much about it. All the best for all, says Diogo. Always upbeat and pragmatic there, Diogo, over here in the UK. Since I have been here, I've seen steady investment in the Alviagra area. Here's our standing joke. And though standing being the operative and amusing but subconsciously chosen word there. You hear us talking about Alviagra. Here's a play on words, of course. Alviazra. Well worth your attention if you're thinking of settling in Central Portugal. So Gary's seen steady investment there, redevelopment of the sports centre. Yeah, a stadium, many minor league football teams in the UK will be proud of, right? It's incredible, the sporting facility there. The refurbishment of swimming pools and Lido, a new citizen shop, post office, high street, plans for new businesses area, and a new market. Great. Sounds like a place on the up to me, says Gary. Sadly lost one of the restaurants. I was disappointed to discover that I found one Sunday afternoon in Alviazra, but maybe, just maybe, some of the youngsters might return to reopen those restaurants and keep the tradition alive with a bit of new blood. Hopefully so. Expats everywhere? Nah, Superboc for them. It's a Superboc household, the expats everywhere. So there's an interesting thing. For me, Good Morning Portugal is a Sagres. Well, I'll own that. I'm a Sagres person, not a Superboc person. And Joel the same. Maybe it's a Northerners thing. You Northerners like a Superboc, and us shandy drinking Southerners and Centralers like a Sagres. That isn't even an argument. Portuguese Dream. Central Portugal is an amazing place. Hey, Portuguese Dream. I was looking at your site last night and think we should talk. We fell in love with the place pretty much immediately. Yeah, bought and renovated and now started a business involving Central Portugal. Yes, I was looking at your website and it was. I think we need to talk. Hoping to move there one day. Okay, that's so. Are you locked out at the moment of your dream place in Portugal? But yes, let's get our people to talk to your people, Portuguese Dream, and talk some more about this. Let's talk about the tactics of regenerating Central Portugal, because with all due respect, I don't think it is just going to happen from individuals buying property. I think there has to be a bigger picture, bigger plan here. And that's what we need to talk about, as well as people investing on an individual level, buying property. That's all good. But there are a few wrinkles to iron out. There are a few things getting in the way, I think, to be pragmatic and fair about this, and clear about it, and some stuff. And there are a few what are they called, municipalities, understanding this, making the processes easier, making it more attractive to attract inward investment, and doing the sort of inward investment that isn't like Lisbon and Porto, where the indigenous local native people are being hounded out by the incoming wealth and prosperity. We can't have that. Otherwise, there's no point. You know, you don't want to just be colonizing and creating a new empire in Central Portugal. It has to be done sensitively and sustainably, not least for the local people whose lifestyle we admire so much. So Portuguese Dream, let's talk. In Algarve, you can also take a zip wire from Portugal to Spain. Is that when you haven't filled in the right paperwork? Or is it the other way around? On the list for the Expats Portugal team day out, along with the new suspension bridge in Central. Yes, well, I'm up for it if you are, Jerry. Can we do there you go sweepstake? Only thing that got me through staff meetings was how many times our head would say, basically, I won with 83. Yes, let's do it. Let's do. I mean, you're very welcome to do Munson BS bingo with stupid things I say, because everyone does it, don't they? We've all got our little stock phrases. There you go. Seems to be mine. So feel free, Pete. Hand out those bingo sheets now. Let's raise some money for charity, mate. Thing is, we are that battery. You're right, Gary. The thing is, we could just be that battery, and that's what I want to hear in the speech when Gary is recognised for his part in the regeneration, along with the mayor of Alvazara, and he talks about being Gary the Battery Austin from that conversation we had a few years back. Good morning from Geneva. Hey, Paolo, how are you? Been a while. Hope you're well over there in Geneva. We know Superboc for the win. All right, you two, get a bar. In quarantine for 10 days in Geneva. Oh, wow. Okay. I hope we're keeping you in some way part of your sanity program here, Paolo. It's hard to believe, but it could be. Sagres does have a nice radler, though. We'll give them that. Oh, okay. So you like the cider that they do? That's a sort of damned by faint praise if you're just liking their cider, I think. Diogo, I'm working 4 days, 12 hours and getting 4 days off. So today it's a day off. Life just getting 1 day at a time, mate. Oh, Diogo, hang on in there, buddy. I know, sort of typically Portuguese, hard-working person and abroad. Would you want to come back to Central Portugal? What's your view on that? And live I mean, there's nothing wrong with working 12 hours a day if you're doing what you love, right? Because then it's not work in a way. But I don't want to ennoble, hard and harsh and unnecessary working conditions. But I wonder, Diogo, would you rather be doing that in Central Portugal? Hank, I've read some articles that made a good argument that there will be an economic boom once everyone is vaccinated and lockdowns end. People want to go to the bars, movies, restaurants desperately. I'm sure there will be a bounce back boom, won't there, where the money that the people haven't been able to spend, for those who've been lucky enough to be in that position, will be spending it sometime soon. And there are already videos circulating out there of people walking into the pub for the first time in months, as though it was some sort of beautiful, mythical place, and they're looking around and they see the first pint of beer that they've had in a pub with their mates for months, and it's a magical moment. I can see that boom happening. And I think that's the problem with booms, of course, Hank, isn't it? Is that will be a blip, an upward blip on the economic graph. But like I said, what we had before the pandemic wasn't really that fair for many, many people. The gap between, the rich and the poor is getting ever bigger. And that is echoed in Portugal. What sort of system could we have? Long-term sustainable system that allows the young people of Central Portugal, if they want to, they don't have to stay in Central Portugal, but what would the economic mechanism be that allows people to stay where they are with their families and other families to come in, and for it to be a sustainable livelihood? We're not talking about much. That's the thing. We're really not talking about much. Well, there are many tales to tell from the pig killing very soon after we moved into our very old home, to the hospital world experiences, to the lovely people who have entered our lives. All of life is there by the sound of it, Patricia. Central Portugal, especially the Coimbra area, for sure. Coimbra, the heart of Portugal and the capital of Central Portugal, you have to say. And it sounds like you have a wonderful interview there with me at some point when you're ready. I'm in Perafita in the north. Yes, okay. A few hundred yards from the end of the Porto Airport runway. That's very handy, watching the cargo planes coming into land at the moment, and a short bus ride from work in southern Matosinhos town. That's a cool part of Portugal, isn't it, Matosinhos? What's going on there with the whole startup culture. And in normal times, a metro ride from the centre of Porto. Very smart move, Peter. You're a man like Mark Rigby, I think, who's chosen well and using that metro ride into Porto whilst enjoying a little bit of being out on the periphery. But it's how exciting to be near the airport there. Look, stop it, you two, talking about, all right, Superbot wins for now. I think the Brexit bonus will see more younger British immigration to the central area. Yes, well, as in people will go through the visa process now, Paul, and will just think, I can't bear it living in Britain anymore. We've got to get out, and Central Portugal will be all the more attractive. Is that your theory there? Superbok Estoril. I shouldn't have even mentioned it, should I? Says Maxine. And Paolo, I like the Superbok, but I prefer the Sagres Mini. There's something quite incredible about the Sagres Mini, is there not? That whatever it is, it's almost like it reminds me of taking a little shot of something medicinal, but in a good way. It's only a few milliliters of beer, but on a hot day, straight from the fridge, it has the most magical qualities. Sagres, if you're listening, yes, locked out. Oh dear, Portuguese dream, locked out of your own dream there. That's harsh and hard. But still, we can talk, right? Borders are closed. Only workers can cross, says Antonio F., talking about Spain and Portugal. Hi from Bahrain, from Wendy. Good morning to you, Wendy. It's been a while. Hope you're well. I'm also a Sagres girl, says Jenny. Thank you. Me too. I'm a Sagres girl too, Jenny. And I'm coming from the beer land. Well, there you see, because Americans don't really know about beer, do they? To be fair. No, no offense, but much caused, I suspect. It really, that's the crowning glory of this conversation. This is the person who's come from the beer land, Belgium. She likes Sagres. Case closed. Jerry, it's Spain to Portugal. Oh, that's the zip wire. Have you done it, Paul? Were you up there with your camera? I wonder. It looks like the Central Portugal debate is stopping us talking about any news stories. I'm enjoying this. I hope you are too. What are we going to do about Central Portugal? How are we going to regenerate there? Let's catch up, though, with comments. Bon dia from Maxine. We've got a Maxine and a Maxine this morning. At Jerry from Antonio. The zip line is from Spain to Portugal. Takes a minute and you return in an hour's time, but only works in summer. Jerry, where is the new suspension bridge in Portugal? In Central Portugal? Please tell us more. Could someone do us a link to that? Because it is we should gather there. For sure, when we can. An hour's time on. So you spend an hour in Spain, just enough time maybe to have a bit of lunch, which you hold on dearly to on the zip line on the way back. What a grim sight that might be. How many of them do you have? Asks, what's that referring to? But I'm sure that will be answered in due course. I think in the coming decades, young Portuguese people will return to Central Portugal. And perhaps with the pandemic, it will be faster. I hope so, Gianni. It's taken this terrible thing to happen, maybe, to have that occur. But I like that prediction. Aruca is where the... oh, look at that. The Jerry's there right away. Google 516 Aruca near Porto. So it might be... Yeah, I think the North might claim that one, Jerry. But there's no harm in us trying to say, yes, it's just another great thing about Central Portugal. Crossing as a worker, says Eric, returning to residence in Germany should be allowed, I hope. I have a giant file of Portuguese documents to show the GNR. That's a really good tactic, Eric, when dealing, I think, with the GNR or any bureaucrat. If you're, going to the city shop, the people shop on official business, turn up with a filing cabinet. They know you mean business and that you've got everything there, and maybe take one thing out slowly and then another thing. And eventually they say, okay, just go through, for goodness sake, and take your filing cabinet with you. Good strategy, rather than just turning up with one scruffy bit of paper and none of your other official documents. It's always going to work well in Portugal. Take everything, the DNA samples, the fingerprints of the great-grandparents, all of it. Most people who come here to live are not usually holiday home. So we don't have a tourist season, really, in Central Portugal. Gary speaking on behalf of Central Portugal. So the economy is more stable in general. Good point. Or it was before the pandemic. You can get a lot of for your money. And if you don't want to farm yourself, pay someone to help you. Yes, this could become partly self-funding. Now, that's where we're starting to have an interesting conversation, right? Or we're already having an interesting conversation. We're having an even more interesting conversation. Work with local people. Create that livelihood by collaborating with local people with your farming. And that, you see, for an individual would be quite difficult. because you have to set your own precedent, and you have to make your own friends and contacts, and you're learning the new language. This is the sort of help that's needed, I think, on a higher scale, a larger scale, a higher level. The systems for the agency for doing that, that's why the municipalities, I think, need to be involved, because they're the ones that, from their view of local government, they could match the people who are coming in, who want to farm, with the locals. The dying breed of Estrella shepherds, for example. It's one of the most beautiful things in Portugal that you'll see. It's a shepherd, usually a goat shepherd now, but somebody driving their herd across the plains of central Portugal. You're hearing the bell, you're hearing them shout, "Whoa!" and a whistle. Mrs. M will probably come running in now, wondering what on earth's going on here. But it's so I've got a recording of it from when I was here over 10 years ago. I was like, well, what's that in the distance? Turn my recorder on, and I'm hearing the whistle and the shout and the dogs barking, and then the goats are coming in with their bells, and it comes through, and it takes ages, but it's just such a beautiful experience as they go into your view and back out of your view again on the hillside there. And those, who's going to be doing that? These are all, again, I think, mostly old guys who do that job. We need to support that, don't we? I think there may be individuals who want to do it, but it needs a collective effort to make those beautiful things sustain and to grow. Great point, Gary. Thanks for that. I know about it. Says log 45454545. I know about it, but that's North Portugal to me, not Central. There you go. Poetic. What's that? Poetic license there. Yes, absolutely, Jerry. It is in Central. I would have moved over by now, says Maxine, but not allowed to fly over at present. And I wanted to sort out paperwork. My home has been empty for a year. That is sad. Hopefully for not much longer, Maxine. Beers or remaining quarantine days? If it's a beer at this moment, I don't have any. If it's quarantine days, I have 6 more. Paolo just counting down there. Oh dear. Run out of beer with 6 days to go. I don't know what else to say, Paolo, except hang on in there. Lots of love to you. You can get some flown in, maybe a shop delivery left on the doorstep outside. Do excuse me. I don't know about your specific case. Land borders are open to trucks and local cross-border workers. That is Spanish working in Portugal and vice versa, says Antonio for Eric there. Top tip coming in from Mr. Bleach. Something we forgot about. The baggage form takes at least 2 weeks to go through. Our removal company said that lots of people have goods stuck in storage because of it. That is a top tip. Get the baggage form sorted out early. Yes, don't leave that till the last minute. You may face a couple of weeks delay. I was working 12 hours every day in Portugal and not getting the same money I'm getting here. Yeah, there you go. There you go. I've done it. There you go. But not more. It's not about the money. For me, it's the lifestyle and the good life back in Portugal, missing it, and the sun, Sagres, and the wine. That's it. That's what I'm talking about. And this is the an unfortunate facet of our world, is it not? The way we run it is that a Portuguese person there who would rather be at home in central Portugal with the lifestyle of sun, Sagres, and wine that we're coming here for, has to go move elsewhere to earn more money. I don't think that makes sense for humanity. I'll be honest with you. It is unfortunately our system at the moment, but other systems are available. It's down to us to make them, isn't it? Here we go. That was a here we go, not a there we go. Yay, Carl, you have now discovered the pleasures of cold beer. Did I describe that well enough? The cold Sagres Mini from the fridge, and from mixing cold white wine, etc. Yeah, the pleasures. I have definitely discovered the pleasures of cold beer and cold white wine. There's no doubt about that. Paul Richards, maybe the Portuguese government could make Central Portugal a tax-free zone. Now, there's a great idea. Excuse me, Mitch, I'm going to go on to the water now. Cold water, Maxine. Bear with me a moment. Oh, that was nice. Lovely Portuguese water. Tax-free zone in Central, and that seems very daring. And I wonder, is that too drastic? Does that bring about the sort of investment that could be too fast and too fiscally based? Because I think that this needs to be, it's definitely a fiscal thing, an economic thing, a political thing. But so often, regeneration perhaps focuses too much on that and not so much the sociological aspects of making sure people are okay and that there isn't a displacement that takes place by virtue of economics. But a great suggestion, Paul. And there must be precedents. I mean, that's the other thing. We're thinking about what to do with Central Portugal, but aren't there? There must be other areas in Europe, in Southern Europe, where this is occurring and occurring well. There are enough municipalities tinkering with these ideas across Southern Europe, some disastrously, some with success. What are the models for this elsewhere? The benchmarks. I think that is a regionalisation process where each region can allocate resources, taking into account its needs, says Paolo. Thank you. Not just any bureaucrat in Lisbon. That's right. Would be the best way to reform the interior of the country? Yeah. It can't be done by people who don't live there, can it? I mean, certainly the help would need to come from the capital and, from where the money is, which is often the capital. But really, it does need the participation and drive and leadership from the people who live there. This is part of the problem, isn't it? Centralization causes this problem in the first place. Gary's on fire this morning, buying a farm, doing it up, paying locals, hiring people, and contributing to the local economy. There we go. We have a great model. It's our plan, says Pete. That's what they're going to be doing. So we'll keep an eye on you, the Bleachers, to see how this works in your part of Central Portugal, and we'll give you all the love and support we can, because to me that sounds great. Bleach and Austin Associates, the new consultants for Central Portugal, with their plans there. There are plans for a new highway to Spain from the Monsanto area. I don't like big roads, but a better connection can also bring some good things. That's right. Don't worry, Jenny. Not afraid of big roads in Portugal. And, they're not overused. They haven't encouraged a massive load of traffic. It's only just over 10 million people here. It's not like the roads are suddenly going to be full. But you're going to have great roads to drive on alone, as you do in Central Portugal. Beautiful Symbiosis is the name of the project now. There we go. A while back, Canada was offering a certain number of acres to would-be farmers for free. If they started a farm with the land, maybe that could be part of a solution for Central Portugal. Yes, encouraging people who want to work and live in the place is probably better than just attracting people who are bringing money alone. Yeah, I think that's a good idea, Hank. Coming to do something rather than just in straight up investment. That's another part of our problem, isn't it? If we look at what's happened in Lisbon and Porto, Barcelona, where the Airbnb phenomenon has occurred, and I saw a tragic documentary of an old lady who was moved out of it was a horrible flat. She wasn't being looked after. Moldy old flat in Porto. And she was being evicted because she'd fallen behind. And there was a social worker talking to her and explaining the situation. And for me, what's so grim about that is, look after the lady, for heaven's sakes. We live in a culture where that's possible, right? And what seemed to be happening there was that an investment company of some sort bought the building, evict the old lady. She's fallen behind on her rent in hard times, do it up, turn it into Airbnb. The people benefiting from that don't even live there. I mean, that's awful. To me, that's awful. It's a nice holiday for some people, going to an Airbnb in Porto. But if you knew that your weekend break in Porto was premised on the eviction of an old lady, would you think twice? I would. I circumvented the baggage form by buying a trailer. Doing the move, ever the practical lateral thinker there, Andy the Doc Thompson, brilliant. Are you open for work, Andy? Will you go and collect other people's stuff? That's the big question. The thing I like is that we have substantial expat immigrant community here, but we melt nicely into the framework of this beautiful land because we want to preserve all this, because that's what we came here for. Again, well, he is on fire this morning, isn't he? In Alviagra, the man of reason in Alviagra. Offer it to only the second or third generation Portuguese or some such. Yep. So many good ideas. Let's send this episode to the Portuguese government this morning. I want to learn from the people there all about the olivar, the first only helping and learning. Okay, this is. Forgive me, Jenny. I think you are referring to growing olives, right? Over here, and again, that sounds like a great livelihood. Andy the Doc Thompson, and thoroughly appropriate. Luckily, we're renting for a few months while the house is finished, not needed immediately. Not all of us are as brave as you, Andy. You're an inspiration. He is. He's borderline crazy, but he is. He's truly inspiring. And he's also the new secretary of the Good Morning Portugal Wine Club. Doing a great job, Doc. Really appreciate your help with that. We're still working on the uniform for you, though, as secretary. I agree with you, Carl. The greed of money. Poor old lady. Yeah, it was horrible to see. A Portuguese government, one of the incentives will be the employment interior MAIS measure. Yes, there it is. Interior MAIS from Legend Maybe, which will provide an initial support of up to €4,827 for workers who decide to move to the interior. This plan is coming together. Fantastic, Legend Maybe. That's what I was looking for last night. And I did mention it, I think, once on the show here. But this is all part of the picture. Fantastic. The MAIS, Employment Interior MAIS measure, that project for funding movement to the interior, to the outback here. Peter, I'm 61 and looking at possible early. What time is it? Oh, look at us. 7 minutes past 10. I'm looking at possible early retirement, says Peter, at 61. So would be a little worried about selling up my house here in Perafita and moving inland into an isolated village, into a house or a farm that might need some restoration work, since I don't have a car. Hiring locals in Central Portugal as farm labourers managers sounds interesting and good for cooperative farming, but as the population is declining there, and I'd be perceived as a foreigner, wouldn't that sound a little bit like external colonialism? Yeah, I think it could, Peter. And it's all a matter of measure, isn't it? Like everything in life, measure and balance. You know, on the face of it, of course it's that, but it ain't what you do, it's the way that you do it, and that's what gets results, and the results we're looking for. But the plan I have in mind, Peter, is that you wouldn't do that alone. That would be an uphill struggle, wouldn't it? That could be heartbreaking as well as backbreaking, and that's why we need the 3 generations, and that's why I think we need to do this as cooperatives in these new kinds of villages, where you're not having to have house meetings with your comrades and all live together in a melting pot, that's an incendiary melting pot of emotions and resentments. No, live in Central Portugal in what might be a little gathering of several houses where you live your separate lives, you share resources. There's no point in everyone having a drive-on tractor, is there? Or even vehicles. They don't need to be individually owned by individuals or nuclear families. Share the resources, share the farm machinery, live together, look after each other. That's the model I would say, Peter. At 61, there may well be 80, 90-year-olds for you to look after, as well as the younger parents and children. That to me would be the ideal model of living in Central Portugal. So you don't suffer that dreaded isolation, and you don't look like a solo colonialist. A roof box, large estate, car towing a trailer. Andy the Doc is perhaps making an advert there. Who knows? What do you charge per cubic meter per mile? Bon dia, gente from UB. Good morning to you. Bon dia to you. Tudo bem, UB? It definitely needs a comprehensive solution because it's a complex problem and there won't be a silver bullet. Too true, Hank. We're working on it, aren't we? And Anna has put the MAIS. Yes, there we go. There's the link. There we go. Needs to be on my bingo card. From Anna. Thanks, Anna. Always brilliant with a helpful link. And one of our Ask Our Expats. Well, she's not strictly speaking an expat. She's part of our expats team at expatsportugal.com. If you need further help from Anna, you can hire her by the hour via Skype, obviously, at the moment, or similar. Andy the Doc Thompson, and your tire blew up and the trailer broke. You're nuts, basically, says Pete. The nuts we absolutely adore, Andy. Yes, love your nuts. The Doc. Government buying produce to guarantee a floor on crop prices initially, which then could be turned around and sold on the global market or donated to developing nations. It sounds good. Sounds useful, Hank. Should be in the mix. Really, Carl? Bananarama? I'm sure somebody else said it ain't what you do, it's the way that you do it. There's a classier version of that, isn't there? Anyway, it escapes me now. But this beautiful chat we've had this morning about Central Portugal has inspired me, and I hope it has you too. We will return to this theme. I think we need to leave it there at 10 minutes past 10. And just a final word, Louise likes the model. Sharing resources is key, isn't it just? Have we not had this experiment of the nuclear family, of dividing life down into smaller and smaller units? The worst case scenario, possibly, they might like this. I'm not want to tell anyone how to live their life or how they should be. We're having a conversation about models and possibilities, aren't we? But the worst case scenario, it seems to me, is that the family that was once in Central Portugal, the youngsters move away. the elderly parents are there. Sadly, one of them passes away, and you have one elderly person living in a hard to heat home, and we know that can be possible in Central Portugal. You have an 80-year-old alone, bent double, gardening still. Such is the resilience and hardiness of these folks. That strikes me as a sign that things have gone too far, too unmanageable, unsustainable. Those people need help, do they not? At least, a cooked meal every now and then from neighbours. Let them live an independent life. Lots of people want to. That's why we've ended up in this condition, isn't it, of isolation and loneliness, because we haven't been able to live with other people, possibly. Other people get on our wicks. But that said, we also have a lot of communication, kind of counseling, communication technology, don't we, to iron out our differences, and that's on the rise too. How we can live together more peacefully and positively, I think, is also part of this picture. Learning to live together rather than moving apart because we can't bear to do it. And that's a failed experiment as far as I'm concerned. That great mobility that began in the 70s, 80s and 90s, what state has that left society in? It's left a lot of isolated and lonely people. And fine if you like it like that. I'm not, no one wants to take that away from you. But there is a downside to that, isn't there? The picture I'm painting there of a lone elderly person in Central Portugal in their cold house, trying to survive. We can do better than that, can't we? And compare and contrast that with the loneliness and isolation, possibly of a nuclear family, single parent family in the inner city, where you might argue the kids would benefit from access to a 3-generation setup. Something's gone a little bit wrong. There's a lot that could be put right, and there's a lot of context and potential for putting it right, I would say. So Louise likes the sound of that. The model sounds awesome. Sharing resources is key. Lol, you hope. Was that about the outfit we want to dress you in, Doc? Did we not put that in the job description small print? Or I hope there's a better version of Bananarama. ABBA, Bananarama, discuss for another day, Hank. Everyone likes a guilty pleasure. Some of us don't even feel guilty anymore. Aimed at finding a more respectable source than Bananarama. Okay, I'll do what I can. Globalization has its price. There you go. The man of reason sums it up so much better than me. Again, globalization has its price. We're seeing that. We've seen it in the pandemic. Hasn't that been part of this? Is to be stopped. We've been stopped, haven't we? And we're looking at what was before. And, in our desperation, some of us are keen to get back to that. But was it so great? What could be improved upon? Could Central Portugal be the model and the incredible context for this renaissance, folks? And Gianni, when I can choose living alone in nature or with a lot of people in the city and being lonely, I know what I want. Sure, Gianni. And, I think we can safely assume that you could live in Central Portugal alone or enjoy solitude and yet have people nearby, because we do need each other at times, don't we? Maybe we don't want to live on top of each other and in horrible close proximity that drives you nuts, but wouldn't it be great to find a new balance where we can enjoy the beautiful solitude and peace of Central Portugal and have people close enough at hand where when we do need each other, we're there for each other. So there you go. What a fabulous conversation this morning. Thank you for being so awesome, you lovely people. We will see you tomorrow morning when it's a bit more practical and pragmatic around the business of starting a business in Portugal, where my old mate Michael Heron joins me. Looking forward to that conversation. Come and join us. Other things will inevitably, as Fiona pointed out, will come into the mix, and Michael and I are easily distracted. So look forward to your company then. Take care. Bye for now. Have a great day. I nearly just pressed the end broadcast button. We've got this to play for you. Take care. Bye for now.